think? Okay, that's the cat, Andy. Um, so, one of my favorite little books is called Letters from My Windmill by Alphonse Daudet, or Alphonse Daudet, I'm not really sure. Um, and I've read it a couple times. I wanted to read it again, um, mostly because I had recently moved. I live in a tiny house, um, but the surrounding area is so um, pastoral. Um, I got like lots of windows, and I can see all the little animals outside, rabbits and squirrels. I saw a mink recently, um, and I've been going on these walks, um, kind of thinking about nature and kind of being more reclusive, like being solitary. Um, and there's things I like to think about, like walking, and there's like these cornfields, beautiful sky, um, and like paying attention. Um, thinking like the sky is tall, like really tall. When you look up, it just keeps going, and it sounds stupid to say, but you honestly have to look up to notice. You can just go a long time without realizing that there's a gigantic sky looming over your head. Um, and very quickly, a book that might come to mind is Walden by Thoreau. Um, it kind of hits all the same beats, you know, going off into nature, being more solitary. And I've never really liked Thoreau. I always thought he was kind of pedantic, disingenuous. Um, I never cared about his pond. I always thought it was a stupid pond. Um, didn't do it for me. Um, if Thoreau wrote about a windmill, I might have liked it. Daudet wrote about a windmill. Anyway, um, the preface of the book was something I kind of go back to read. It's this little thing that he wrote. And Daudet was a Parisian. Um, he lived in the provinces and moved to Paris, and became very successful um, as a novelist. Is hardly read now at all, um, at least outside of France. And the preface that he wrote is that as an adult working in Paris, where you're just consumed with city life and busyness, he liked to go back to this little village um, that had a ruined, abandoned windmill. It was sort of like a ghost town. Um, and it kind of brought him back to his past and his childhood. It's really kind of tender, and it sets the tone for the rest of the book. And it's such a strange mix. There are all these little short stories, and the idea is that he's telling you about all the quaint happenings of the town folk that live around this windmill, kind of like the backwards people. Um, but it's really fantastical. So some of the stories will be fables where goats talk, trees talk to goats, um, stories where the stars interact with one another. There's like the mythology and the constellations, but we'll have a story of stars that get married. Um, some of them are actually real letters that are written to different people. Some are like pastoral tales. So like the genres like switch up. I think I'll tell you about two of them that I like the most. Um, and I think that the first one is about the windmills, and he was growing up, he's okay. The windmills were making flour from the corn, and it's right at that time where the factories were coming in, getting set up, and they started one by one closing down the windmills. And the story is about the last miller, and he's the last one up, and every day he's got his like little horse cart, and he goes down the road, and he's got sacks and sacks of flour, and everyone in the town is going, well, where are you selling this stuff to? And he's like, I'm busy. And he's acting like he's got all this business. He's like still doing perfectly fine. Well, someone wants to marry the miller's daughter, and they go up and knocks, and it turns out he won't let anyone in the windmill, and it's like a secret around town. What's going on in there? They think that he's like secretly rich, like this eccentric millionaire type, I guess. And finally, they break into his windmill and discover that it's all a lie. He'd been scraping the plaster off the inside of the windmill and filling up bags and doing this promenade through the town in a lie, pretending that he's still doing well. And it was for his dignity. He just couldn't watch time go by him. He lived at a time that no longer exists. And it's a sad story. It has humor to it as well, and it's sort of the theme throughout the whole entire book. That time keeps going, whether you're going to go with it or not. The other story is someone that lives in Paris writes to someone in town and says, "Hey, can you visit my grandparents? They're in another town over." And the guy writing the letter says, "You gotta go to their house, just go right in. The grandparents are gonna be in their chairs, they're weak, barely move, barely alive, and just give them a letter or let them know how I'm doing or whatever." And the guy goes there, and kind of obviously they're these older people, grandparent age, whatever that is, and they're relatively lively and excited to meet this person, and the grandmother hops up out of her chair and goes, and they're going to make a big meal and all that. But they're really curious to ask the visitor about their grandson, and they're asking all these different questions. And my favorite one is the grandson's in Paris, and the grandmother asks the visitor, "What color is his wallpaper?" And the visitor goes, "Well, it's blue." And the grandmother goes, "He's such a good boy." And it just perfectly encapsulated like the feeling of pride that a grandmother or a mother or any parent has for their children. You just love every little detail that you can soak up about their lives. It's just like the most wonderful, genuine little moment. The book's full of these little stories that have wonderful, touching moments. They can be dark and sad, but more often than not, they're all tender. And I've read it a couple times, and one of the best things about this book is that it's so rereadable. I mean, I can't wait to read it again. I'll end there. If you want to comment, you can, but we're good. We're done.